Sweet. It is 12:06. I think we can get started. The first presentation that we have is Upper and the Landscape of AI, or AI Landscape, I believe. Are you here? Awesome.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, perfect. So I will share my screen. So yeah, what I wanted to build is open AI database, which will be database of current AI tools, apps, models, whatever. I think AI is really booming right now. So whether you whenever you wanna build something or use AI, people just spending a lot of hours on researches, and every day there's something new. So I came up with an idea to create an open Airtable database with some descriptions and tags, and a form to add new tools. So in that way, community will be able also to propose new tools to be visible in that database. Someone in the comments also prompted to when they create a DAO out of it. So yeah, as I mentioned, why do we need this that kind of database? It is easier for everyone creating new project within the space to actually identify new markets, because you can see if such a tool was created already or not. Explore existing tools and actually use them. I think for everyone new to AI, it would be useful to actually enter such a database and go through some of them, and grasp a current state of the art, so we know in which state AI is actually right now. Why did I pick Airtable? So it is easy to create a form view out of it, and put a form to add new items to the Airtable. And I also came up with an idea to let me go to maybe automate it a bit and create out of this Airtable a Notion page. So each time something will be added to Airtable, it will be also added to. That's really the example, but imagine a Notion page like that, and each page will be category, and the tool will be added from a table to this category to be visible also in Notion. But if you use Airtable, it can also be embedded to any other page. It's gonna be open source, so everyone will have access to that. This is the form that you would use for adding new tools to the database. And yeah, that's it. If you have any more questions, here's my contact info.
Awesome. Perfect. Does anyone have any questions? I have a question. So I'm interested in, I guess, the direction that you'll be taking this. Is this going to be, I mean, obviously AI is growing and growing and growing, but is this going to be tools for say like the end consumer, or is this going to be development tools for AI developers?
So depends on the category. I want to create a category also for like builders, developers, so they can filter by that and actually and that would be much more useful to just enter that category if you want to build something. And maybe something more like for customers, beginners category for use like that. So yeah, that's why I want to use tags in that database.
Exactly.
It would be really cool if you could get some stuff from like the customer side as well. Like what sort of tools do customers really want? I think that's going to be really valuable information just because, you know, we have a lot of builders in the Algovera community and we tend to build a lot of things that we think are cool without talking to customers.
Yeah.
But it'd be really cool to get that from the other side. Like what are the tools that customers are most interested in? And you could start to build like a database of that. And I think that will be really valuable to people.
Cool. Very nice idea.
Nice. Any other questions? Anyone?
Another cool idea that might not take too long to set up would be there's like I can send you a link to this. You can create like a bot that answers questions about a data source. In this case, it's like a Notion doc, but I'm sure it wouldn't be that difficult to set up with Airtable. So you could create like an interactive chatbot that you could basically like ask questions about what different AI projects exist. And so instead of like needing to navigate the database, you could just like interact with this like text interface. So you'd be using like an AI tool to describe a database of AI tools, which would be pretty cool. And people might have a lot of fun interacting with it.
Yeah, I like that. I'll take some notes.
Sweet. All right, cool. So next we have smartcontract.fyi by Drew and Archit, helping you understand complex smart contracts. Drew, are you here? I see you anyway.
I'm just going ahead and sharing my screen. So
Sweet.
hey all, this is Dhruv and I have my teammate Archit with me, and we are working on smartcontract.fyi. We were part of round 8 too, but we didn't got the grant. But this time we are bigger and better. So a little introduction. Smartcontract.fyi helps you to understand complex smart contract, audit them, and even create them within seconds with the power of AI. So first of all, what was the actual problem? So some of you might know that the non-techies, which are like very new to the code and all, they don't understand the complex code of the smart contract, even it being the open source, which is very helpful in case you want to verify the source. Second thing is that auditing and security is necessary but very complex and long process. So that's why we came up with the project. We came up with the platform, it's a one-stop solution for you all to get your smart contract, understand it, and make it better than the version. So we have the live links right now. So first of all, this was our older version which we came up with in the round 8, and now this was a very basic version. You might have tried it or not, but now this time we have been become and better. So this is our page right now. You can go on our website, it's live, and try it out yourself. So we have come up with 4 tools. First of all is it's understand your code. So you can understand the code according to your level of understanding. The other thing is vulnerabilities. So you can find some mistakes in your smart contracts. The other one is flow of code. So it will help you to understand how the smart contract works. Then the last one, but not the least, you can also get a contract audited and even create them with the help of our tool. So it's a whole new experience for you all. It's a one-stop solution for all the needs related to smart contracts and AI. And we are using GPT-3 here. GPT-3 is a model from OpenAI, and that's how we get our smart contract audited and all. We are also going to train our model with GPT-3 with smart contracts that will help to enhance the results. Right now, we are offering 5 free credits for trial, so you can go and try it out. I will give you a little demo on how and which to how it works out. So we can just go to our understand contract page, and we can So last time I remember we were asked to add the level of difficulties. So you asked for it and we did it. So this is our page. So you can choose your level if you want. It's like a noob or like if you're a noob or you don't know much about it, you are a learning student or you're an expert. So that's how you can do that. And for that, we will just copy up a code of code, and then we can paste it up here. And then you will see in within seconds, you will have the result of what the contract is all about. And you gotta just wait for a second bit. Yeah, so here it is. It explaining that it was a contract code for DAO, and then you can vary it according to your choice. Maybe you're an expert, so you might wanna understand it in that way. So you can do that. And then there are other tools too, which I just showed you, and you can try it out on our website, which are creating, auditing, and making getting out the mistakes and all. So yeah, this is live on the platform. Right now we are sourcing the OpenAI credits from our own self, but we will be using the grant for purchasing the OpenAI credits. It's very costly to buy them, so that's what we will be using grants for. And our website will be live for all the users very soon, by the end of this week, and you can try it out on our website by just signing up on the website. So yeah, I will just so you can sign up by creating your account, and then here's the dashboard. So it will show your credits, it will show all the tools we have, and then our deliverables for this grant round would be to make a better and more better website in terms of UI UX, train our GPT-3 model specifically for smart contracts, add dashboard and more profile section, and record all your and help you show your usage and all. And we will also be adding customizability for prompts according to user preference and understanding, like we did in the level of understanding thing. So that's all about us. I'm Dhruva Gawal. I'm a developer DAO member, and I have Arshit Sharma with me, who is my other colleague and teammate, and who works on the front end part. Thank you.
Sweet. That's great. Thank you, Drew. Any questions, anyone?
You're using GPT-3, not ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, we are using GPT-3
Okay,
right
cool.
now, and we are in process of training our own model GPT-3 for enhancing the results and for the user.
You're fine-tuning your own model?
Yeah, we
Cool.
are. We are
Nice.
fine tuning our model so we are collecting the bunch of data and contracts right now, and it might take some time, but yeah, we will be training our own model to enhance the results.
And you're using the OpenAI API for fine-tuning?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah,
Okay.
right,
Very
right.
cool. I'm excited to see how
So,
that turns out.
so the thing was that we both of us are not very deep into AI and ML, and we just started out. So we were like, let's learn more and more things, and that's we came across the fine tuning, and then we were like, yeah, let's try it out. Let's fine tune our own model.
Super cool. Yeah. Um, and even while you're like fine tuning as well and stuff, it'll be really interesting to just experiment with like passing examples of code in the input prompt as well. A lot of the time, if you
Yeah.
just give it like some data in the input prompt without fine tuning, it actually helps to improve performance. So yeah, it would be cool to like explore that too, and it's probably cheaper as well.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But it's great to explore
Thanks
fine
for the
tuning.
feedback. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. For sure.
I just deployed a contract so all the members within Algovera can have their reputation badges. I wish I would have chose the to use this just to run the code in there, but I'll do it next time because that's what I did last time. It was a lot of fun actually, and yeah, it's great that you added the different levels. That was like one of my suggestions, and now it's here. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's epic. That's really cool.
Yeah. Actually, you can create the contracts too. So, like, if you just give it a prompt, like, I want to create a contract named token contract named Pipecoin or and symbol PC, it will give the whole code out for you. So this is how easy it is. It will
Exactly.
create a customized contract for you. So yeah,
Nice. Well, thank you for presenting.
sure.
Cool. Well, next we have promptable.js allows you to build an LLM in TypeScript. I wonder if I believe his name's Colin. Colin, are you here? No. Cool. Um, Well, then, Kyle, if you want towards the end, I think we'll be able to get you in for sure. I know you wanted to do a presentation, so we'll go on to the next one for now. The next one we had was Patrick for analyzing traffic using AI.
Yes. Hello.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yes, please take it away.
Or hear me? Perfect. All right. So hi everyone. I'm Patrick. I'm from Germany, from Munich, and I just finished my PhD. And I mainly focus on multi-object tracking and trajectory forecasting. And now basically I want to use these AI models to make our cities and our traffic better. So the basic idea of what a lot of like cities try to is like shifting from car traffic to more sustainable, like people biking or walking. But now the problem is that cycling and walking is still very dangerous, and there are a lot of accidents. One of the reasons is actually that there's just limited data, and the city and the planners actually don't really know what's going on. So usually what happens if we have, for example, this crossroad, there will be traffic happenings, but most of them, luckily, don't end up in a fatal accident. So you will have a lot of these happenings until something happens. Or maybe it happens once every 2 years, maybe more often, but luckily not that often. But then this is actually the only way how these accidents actually get reported. So then the city gets informed, for example, by the police, and then they can incorporate their measures and change something. This is a very slow and very long-ranging process. So how can we actually use AI or computer vision to improve these scenarios and basically speed up the cycling? So our idea is that basically we use cameras or any other vision-based systems that can be stationary deployed or even for the whole time. This, especially in Germany, is a little bit more difficult for data or in general privacy. But we can basically record for example, the crossroad or the traffic scene for a limited amount of time and get a lot of statistics, and also measure or count kind of like the almost accidents that usually don't appear in the statistics, but they are not different than an actual accident. The actual accident is just much more rare. But when two objects get very close, there should be some action against this, because this should not happen, and we can act much earlier than just waiting for an accident to occur. So now basically we can detect these almost accidents, for example, and then put in a safety alert, and the city can act on it. Also, what they can do is basically they can measure before and after a constructual measurement. So right now also they make changes, but they have no chance to actually verify whether these kind of like constructions made sense or not. Also there the process is very, very slow. And finally also they, besides safety, they also want to count how many cars go in, go out, for the traffic lights, how many cars can pass through, but also cyclists, people with handicap, the time windows too short, too long. I mean, all of this information is very useful for the city and the planners, but this data is not available because they cannot put people there watching the whole day and basically recording anecdotally what's going on there. So the solution basically would be, first, you need kind of like a good detection and tracking stack. And the second is then the analyzing platform that consumes the tracks and the detections and computes kind of like the interesting statistics from simple counts to more complex interactions between cars and cyclists, pedestrians. Now we have the scooter driver and all the different participants in these urban areas. And in perspective, once we have recorded and data from a lot of different places locally, but also temporally, and recorded a lot of tracks, we can actually also simulate and kind of like learn the behavior and maybe make suggestions on, okay, if I change certain features in, like, for example, the road layout or on the sidewalk, you know, how might the effect be? I mean, this requires a lot of data, but if we kind of like have these systems into place and they are used by a lot of cities, then we can collect this data to also in the future make suggestions and simulations. So right now I'm basically only working with some not open source, but like some webcam data. So this is somewhere in the US. It's actually not that difficult. The difficult scenarios. Unfortunately, there are not that many pedestrians right now. But yeah, this would be kind of like the data, public data that we can use to kind of like build the first MVP. Yeah, so I mean, here with the detector and already a tracker in place. This is very standard, but I think the crux will be to combine this information and make it available and useful for the people that consume this information. Yeah, kind of like these analysis, but from the one will be the technical side, but also the exchange with the people, for example, in the cities, the planners, what are actually the statistics and the numbers they require in order to make their decisions. Yes, and then ultimately, I want to build a data dashboard that basically consumes this data and provides it and gives the foundation for the people to make decisions. Yes. So that's basically it from my side.
Sweet. Thank you, Pat. Does anyone have any questions? Would you be getting this data from the city? Is that how would you be sourcing the data?
So I guess that the city, like at least I talked to actually the city of Munich, and they are very hesitant when it comes to actually putting up their own cameras. So you either have to do it yourself or basically have another provider that basically gives you the camera. But it's always this kind of like trade-off. So if you ask them, can you basically put everywhere cameras, just record and then they do the analysis, they will say no. But if you give them like already the tool and say, okay, here we could have, we showed that we can achieve X, Y, Z, then they have kind of like this argument to start recording. Because they basically, in Germany, you cannot just record and then see what you do with the data. You need a very precise purpose, and you only get allowance for the specific thing, and you cannot use the data for something else. So I guess that probably there are other countries that are more liberal, but unfortunately this is how it is in Germany. So that's why it's important to build kind of like the first MVP and to really show that we can improve things, and that's helpful, and then you might get the permission to record more. So it's a little bit like this hen egg problem, that you have to get started, but in order to get started you have to show them that it's better. So yeah.
Exactly. Any other questions, anyone?
I'm curious about like how you're thinking about kind of like medium-term funding. Obviously, like micro grants are very good for early stage. Do you have some ideas about like research grants that you want to get in university, or would you go for different grants outside of the university? And are you still in the university? Who owns the IP and stuff? Would be just curious to hear your experience there.
So right now I'm out of university, so I handed in my thesis like 2 months ago. So this is like now a private project. There are like fundings in Germany for up to 3 people. They're kind of like governmental. So I would go first for the free funding and to really see, is there a market? Are there potential customers? And then if it comes to this, if it plays out, then go for a bigger round. To be fair, also one like this, I see it more also like kind of like, I find this a very interesting first use case, but also in the future, very future, I actually want to build kind of like, now we have the transformers for the LLM models. They're very powerful. And now the same is going in vision. So actually to have a really strong tracking engine. And then it's not only about like, tracking traffic. It's about like, for example, the Deutsche Bahn, the train stations want to understand how the people move. In logistics, people want to understand what's going on in their logistic halls, like now they're private companies. So because humans, I don't care whether I watch a car or a human in the train station, human while working, a human on a construction site. I have an understanding of a human, and I feel that if we move towards transformers, we get the same generability also in the vision. And basically, if the core is very strong, a very strong tracking engine, you can spin out later. But that's very in the future. But like different products, if you really master the tracking, basically. I think,
like the Hydra from Tesla.
yeah, kind of. But first things first. Actually, maybe what I can also show the last time, but I haven't processed. I went out in the streets and just recorded 3 crossroads myself. So I basically put a pole 4 meters and half illegally recorded to get some data from here and more cyclists and stuff. And this will be kind of like the first data I want to analyze. And I soon have a meeting with the city to kind of like present the first MVP.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, my previous startup was on using transformers for human pose estimation, for like analyzing motion of athletes who are doing physiotherapy, and went into the university to get funding, and like, wasn't fully aware that, they own all of the IP and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
In the end, that was actually like, we ended up kind of like walking away from that just because of the ownership situation. So I was just gonna make sure that you were aware of those terms, and maybe it's still, sometimes it might still be the right option, but it's good to be aware of it beforehand. So
No,
yeah,
certainly.
academic funding versus commercial. Yeah.
Thanks for the advice.
You're welcome.
Sweet. All right. We have our next presentation. It's called LossID by Alex. Alex, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Take it away.
Share my screen. Cool. Is that all good?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, so this is a sort of short proof of concept project that I did recently as part of a sort of weekend hackathon, based in the area of mechanistic interpretability, which is this sort of very exciting growing field within AI safety, where we attempt to sort of decompose machine learning models into more sort of human understandable algorithms to understand how they're actually sort of mechanistically tackling a particular task. And one of the most important recent results in mechanistic interpretability was the discovery of a mechanism called induction heads. So these are a general mechanism that say found in language models, where we say that if we've if the model has seen a token, a generic token A, then it can look back in the context of the prompt and find other instances where the token A has appeared and observe that that token in that context was followed by the token B. And so it increases the probability of then predicting that token B after that. So for example, if we down here are looking at the token pot, and we look back and see that in this prompt, pot is commonly followed by the token ters, then we can increase the probability of predicting the token ters. And importantly, this is a mechanism that is not based on sort of the training data, but actually in context learning on the prior prompt, and is a very general mechanism that doesn't rely on sort of statistics of the data set. It can be used with sort of random tokens. And one of the key threads of evidence that the authors used to support, sort of provide evidence for this was the mechanism that was actually driving sort of improvements in prediction, was to look at the loss of the model and compare the loss on the 500th token in a sequence to the 50th token in a sequence, with the idea being that these induction heads are much more useful for predicting the 500th token because you have a lot more prior context from which to learn compared to the 50th token. And what they found was in the region where they observe what they think were induction heads developing, they see this sharp phase change in loss where the model suddenly becomes much better at predicting the 500th token compared to predicting the 50th token. And so this provides evidence that the induction heads are indeed driving this change in loss and are the sort of, doing what they suspect them to do. So the idea I had was that instead of having a mechanism that we found and then looking for a sort of phase change to support it, we could instead look for phase changes in the loss curve, and then that could serve as a place of interest to then go in and look for the mechanism within the model that is driving that change. So what I built was an initial prototype of that allows you to specify sort of a pair of Boolean functions that select two groups of tokens within a data set and then measure the loss on those two groups over the course of training. And so here we replicate the same experiment that they did, where we take all the 500th tokens in our data set and we take all the 50th tokens in our data set and we measure how did the loss on the 50th tokens compare to the loss on the 500th token. And we see the same result where in this early region where induction has developed, we see a sharp decrease in, or we see the model improve much more quickly on the 500th token compared to the 50th token. And then that plateaus once induction heads have developed, actually worsens and then plateaus. But the key thing is that this mechanism is much more general than just comparing the 50th and 500th. They can be any two groups of tokens. So in this case, what I tried to do was find some other groups of tokens that would also demonstrate this similar phase change to provide sort of evidence for this mechanism working more generally. So here we look at tokens that occur at the start of a word compared to tokens that occur in the middle of a word. So the idea here is that tokens that occur in the middle of the word are very commonly preceded by the start token. And so induction heads are going to be very useful for predicting those tokens. Whereas tokens that occur at the start of the word are going to be less, induction heads are going to be less useful for predicting those tokens. And we see a similar finding where there's an initial sharp improvement in loss where induction heads develop on the tokens that occur in the middle of the word compared to the tokens that occur at the start of the word. And then it's much more sort of noisy and equivocal later on. And similarly, another demonstration, this is looking at some famous names or famous surnames. So again, the idea is that these are surnames of like American presidents, and they're very likely to be preceded by the same few tokens. So like president or the name of the president, etc. And so if you see Obama late in the context, or if you see president late in the context and you go back and look at president early in the context, it might be followed by Obama. And so you know that president late in the context is also very likely to be followed by that same token. And again, where induction heads develop, we see this sharp decrease in loss. But then interestingly, we see this different regime through the rest of training, where we see this sort of steady improvement at a faster rate than all other tokens, averaged over all of other tokens in the data set, which is likely driven by a different mechanism to induction heads, perhaps learning sort of statistical correlations of the data set or some more standard mechanism like that. So the idea of this project was to develop this sort of general mechanism of investigating models during training to look for these phase changes, which are then a useful area of interest to then investigate with interpretability tools. And the key next steps for this project would be to first scale up the sort of size of the data set in which this is being run. So this is being run for on 400 models that have been saved, 400 checkpoints that have been saved throughout the training course of a model to get these loss curves on a small data set of only about 5,000 examples. So the key would be to run this at much larger scale of sort of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of examples to have much better insight into the sort of better statistical strength, I guess, because for some of the rarer tokens, it tends to be very noisy. And then to investigate in looking for new phase changes compared to just, because this was more to demonstrate the utility of the tool. We were investigating the same sort of phase change that was found in the original paper. The key thing would be to investigate other regions in the loss where we see these phase changes between sort of groups of tokens, and then go in and investigate what mechanism within the model is actually implementing causing or driving this this phase change in the loss. So yeah, I think that is the summary. Any questions?
Awesome. Yeah. Any questions, anyone?
Yeah, it's really interesting to get an overview of mechanistic interpretability. I've seen it a lot of times on my Twitter timeline, and I've never gotten the chance to dive in. So it's great to get a quick overview. I'm very new to it though, so I wonder if you could. You mentioned induction head a few times. Is that a part of the attention head, or could you just define what an induction head is?
Sure. Yeah. So I sort of skimmed over that. So so an induction head is a type of attention head that implements this specific mechanism that allows it to perform this type of in-context learning. So specifically, it's a type of attention head that, or really a combination of attention heads that looks for, when you're trying to predict the next token, it looks for instances where the current token previously occurred, and then increases the probability that the next token will be predicted. So it's this general mechanism that allows for this in-context learning where a model can predict more effectively when it's given more prompt, more context compared to early on in the context where it's just, generating from sort of more like statistical correlations or other things. So yes, it's a type of attention head.
Cool. And would you use this with a traditional attention head, or would you use it in combination with an attention head? Yeah,
so it's a type of attention head that is naturally learnt during training in combination with other attention heads. So within these language models during training, certain attention heads will specialize into performing this sort of induction mechanism, and other attention heads will specialize to other less obvious tasks, which maybe we don't really understand. So yeah, models will have a variety of attention heads performing different tasks, and normally several of them will be dedicated to this sort of induction head mechanism.
Fascinating.
Nice. Go ahead.
You mentioned in-context learning as well, and when I think of in-context learning, I tend to think of like few shot prompt engineering or something like that. I haven't heard of in-context learning in the during like training or something like that. I wonder if you could say a few words on that.
So this isn't in-context learning happening during training as such. It's investigating where in the training process is in-context learning improving. So the idea is that one of the primary drivers of in-context learning or few-shot learning is the induction head mechanism. And so when we look during the training process, where do we get much better at in context learning? We find that occurs very suddenly in this phase, and then it doesn't improve much after this, or it improves much more slowly. So we suddenly get a lot better at in context learning, i.e. predicting later tokens based on earlier tokens within the prompt rather than from the training data. And that occurs at this specific region of training, where we also see the development of these attention heads specializing and getting these characteristics that are typical of induction heads. And so that's how we detect that these induction heads are developing. And then to link that back, the idea is that this sort of smooth looking loss curve that you typically see is actually an average over many, many noisy loss curves on like different tokens or different groups of tokens. And so by looking at the phase changes, by sort of zooming in on that loss curve instead of looking at the average, we can find these phase changes which are perhaps other similar mechanisms to this that we could then investigate further.
Super cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. I believe this was the first time you presented here at Algovera, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah, I hadn't. I was introduced to it by the sort of organizers of the hackathon. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, glad to have you, and thanks for presenting.
Cheers. Thank you.
So, our last and certainly not least, yet a surprise as well, is Kyle from LexDAO. Are you ready, my friend?
Yeah, I am ready. Let me just turn something off real quick.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't have a slide deck. I apologize about that. But
No worries.
Yeah, I'll go.
You're good.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Cool.
Can you all see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Good. So here's the grant. So it's a really simple, just like straightforward milestone, kind of basic milestone for a chat AI that around the blockchain, which is a student-run newsletter within LexDAO, is going to put together. That the student newsletter already relies on AI for its Feedly AI to compile all the different blockchain news. Here is the newsletter. So they go over important information, and then they also at the bottom have a long list of all the different news that's happening. They're storing it. So I can't remember which part of the storage this is, but they have a few spreadsheets that are already, the data is already cleaned a bit, because not only do they use Feedy AI, but then they also, the students review it and have that extra human curation stage. And then LexDAO, the more mature legal engineers in our group, we already have a chat AI, Lexi. It uses GPT, so you all should check that out. It's wrapper.wtf.lexi up here, and play around with it a bit. And then not only do we have the Feedly information, and for this first milestone, that's probably what we'll do, is just be able to take that Feedly content and then have a chatbot that can engage with that. But then afterward, not only do we have the Lexi, that's the more mature developers, but then also within LexDAO, we have the clinic right here, where there's a lot of work in public legal support that's being done. So various projects, like for instance, ELI 5, we just did a questionnaire with them. So this is all raw data that the AI can ultimately consume and help with its Q&As. And then also in LexDAO main, we also have that raw data. So the AI we already have, that's in Cali. But this proposal is for just the really basic chat that's for the students to be able to build out their own AI chatbot within our ecosystem. And as that goes well, we'll continue to expand our AI initiative. We're going to be using the AI relatively soon for content for Law of Code podcast. And the Law of Code podcast has quite a few top level people that speak at it within the crypto law community. So this Lex Node, he's very well known in the space. Blockchain Association is incredibly important as well. He's Jacob is he's Delphi, but he's also the main guy behind Lex Punk Army. So this AI will be first talk we have, for instance, that we're helping, the law students are helping with the podcast on is DAO liability. So that one will come out in a few weeks. And it'll be an hour long for just sort of retail to be able to consume it, understand where the DAO liabilities are and such. So a little bit less hardcore crypto lawyer than the usual Law of Code podcast. And I think Law of Code, I don't know if it's officially sponsored or backed by McCarthy's, but Jacob is he's a McCarthy, one of the lawyers at McCarthy's, and yeah, that's one of the top law firms in Canada. That's why I mentioned that. And I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, happy to answer questions now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. Can you link Around the Block newsletter in the chat if you can?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Maybe Lexi too would be cool. I've played with it. It's
Cool. Yeah. Any questions, anyone? To make sure I understand, we have a newsletter and we're creating a Q&A AI chat assistant to help someone understand more about that newsletter, right?
Exactly. And the simplest chatbot, so students, they can get their an understanding of how AI works. Something that's really important for us is that we teach law students how to be legal engineers. So this is a great opportunity to have them do that. And yeah,
Exactly.
This newsletter, they already have a lot of content on that. It can be more interactive, consumable, but just this really simple one. So then we can have the team put together and all that. And then down the road, there's lots of opportunity for the content that we're creating in LexDAO that the bot can consume that as well as what this news that the student body has already started to polish up. I don't know the right term for data, making the input data high quality, but in any case, yeah, that's what they're up to. Yeah.
It sounds like you're thinking about community data in a similar way to us, which is we have all of this. We have this resource. Wouldn't it be great if we could use that resource to to empower the community more, whether it's education or just general management of the community and stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited about connecting the newsletter data to a chatbot, maybe podcasts in future, like you said. It's just a bunch of resources that we can make it easier to retrieve for people in the community. So yeah, I think it's really exciting. I guess
Great.
That's not a question.
No, thank you for the support. And yeah, I mean, lawyers oftentimes, they'll give, when they do work for people, they'll give just legal education, right? Which is not, they don't have to do that. People can educate themselves, especially with this interactive thing. And lawyers are on average over $300 an hour. So this is a free version of it, right? Even if they get 70% of the way there, will be substantial for cost savings.
Very interesting. Yeah. And I've actually, I've seen on Twitter, people are saying that law is a really good use case for these chatbots, just because there's so much data to sift through and stuff. And I wonder, just from a high level perspective, how much do you see the legal industry adopting large language models? And also, is there a difference between crypto legal versus trad legal? Which one is going to adopt it quicker? I wonder if you have any insights on that.
I think there's a certain section of trad legal that's going to adopt it the quickest, as there's this legal engineer term that crypto legal has finally coined. The original legal engineers are all AI people. So the first person I can think of, Richard Susskind, and he was doing this back in the definitely 80s, maybe even late 70s. He's just for a while he's been doing the AI thing. So that area of law tech, I guess, is going to be happening really quick. there are many people in legal. I guess the pandemic kind of shifted it, but they were still doing paper and just something that lawyers they hadn't changed for hundreds of years, really, right? So that has been a big shift because of the pandemic period. But I believe there's still. I mean, I can speak personally for my family. I have an uncle who's he's never ever, he doesn't even touch a computer, right? Like he does well as a lawyer because he chats with the other 80-year-olds that are his clients, and they just have a beer or whatever, and they just keep up the relationship. And right, so those guys are not gonna, those trads are gonna stay that way. And then crypto though is, I mean, it's definitely something because we're naturally comfortable with tech, we're adopting it relatively quickly. And also on the coding side, we're already using Copilot. Most recent script I did it with ChatGPT, and I did something that would have taken me half a week and a couple hours at a coffee shop, which was just really, really cool. So if we can have that experience more on the straight up law side, which we're already starting to see, definitely everyone in this space is going to pay attention. Another one too is that AI, people are very bullish about AI and they're kind of bearish about crypto, like right now, right? So as far as like where the capital is, that also incentivizes us. I think everyone in the legal space, the money that's coming from law tech. So for instance, this conversation we're having right now, right? This is an example of it. But the synergies are so great that I'm just really happy to be at this point in history. Ultimately, yeah.
Exciting times, yeah.
Definitely exciting times. Did someone come off mute, or was that me?
Sorry. I was trying to
Yeah,
get
go
in a
ahead.
couple of times.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle, for presenting, and I really enjoyed that conversation. I was just curious on, you mentioned Lexi there. I'd love to hear a few more words about how you guys are planning to use it or intending to use it or are currently using it. It just seems really interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, like generally what we're trying to do is we're trying to automate ourselves out of jobs. And so we've got a product division that is just focused totally on that, just products. And then what I'm running is the services side. So when we still have to do jobs, and often that's, so even sometimes there's not really any way to automate it. Sometimes it's the last mile that still has to be manual. But with the chatbot and Lexi specifically, we can also remove what I'm doing, right? The clinic stuff. And so a lot of what we're up to is just general public legal education. So even if we don't fully remove what we're doing, but we people enter getting our services in there, they're already they have a certain awareness, right? Because they've interacted with the chatbot. Then that makes it easier for us. And then when we finally pass the client to the law firm, then they don't have to pay very much for the law firm because they've basically done everything they can before they actually have to pay those really high legal fees. And in the clinic, we're using students and such. So it's great education for the students, but the students get paid like $25 an hour as opposed to $300 an hour, right? So it's just night and day. But they get the opportunity exposure to clients and such. So it's a good win-win, right? But yeah, so Lexi's already doing that. Right? You can already go to Lexi and get yourself some public education. I still think with this, no matter how good Lexi gets, well, we'll see. But at least so far, my experience with AI, I still think it's good to have the people engage with Lexi, also around the blockchain bot, which should at some point become one overall kind of experience, I assume. They do that, but then they also interact with the clinic or students, people that are low costs, and then they go to the firm. And I think those 3 steps should be there anyway, because like for instance, that experience I just had, writing some solidity with the AI, or it was JavaScript actually that the AI said this, but the AI had the counter inside of a promise, and so then that was bad code because I'm a coder. I immediately saw where they were off. Right, the AI was off, but the AI was so confident. I'm anthropomorphizing it. It doesn't have confidence, right? But because it was just like, yep, this is our. So that's why I think we should still have these steps. And that's another reason why the firm is after law students as well. Is that firm is like, in law, you can never be perfect. So even the most experienced lawyer is going to drop stuff. But having this 3-step thing where the client has the one-on-one conversations with the chatbot, they can have that throughout the other steps too. But then you get the students to kind of vet the next stage and see those kind of things like that counter inside the promise, but the law version of it. And then finally have that lawyer spend the minimum amount of time they possibly can to go like, yeah, the student did it perfectly, or, oh, here's a little tweak. So yeah, so that's kind of, I see how these things develop. But for a lot of people, they don't have enough money to really, or time and stuff to engage with anybody. And that's still better than them just totally winging it. So if they just want to have a computer interaction, it's still going to be much better for compliance and our ecosystem in general, because then we won't have so much regulation by enforcement, because there are people that are doing making rash decisions in the legal environment as they're spinning up a DAO or something like that. Where if they just had a free Lexi they could chat with, we could mitigate those kind of chilling effects that impact all of us. So yeah, those are kind of the use cases I'm thinking about for Lexi.
Super cool. Super cool. I'd love to learn more about this vertical, so I'll reach out to you in the DMs. Thanks.
And I just shared those links. But, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle, for presenting. This was great. Cool. Well, that pretty much sums up all of our presentations for this grant round, actually. So this is the last town hall for the grant round. Some community updates tomorrow, or the 19th. Today is the 18th. Yes. Okay, cool. So the 19th, we will have our voting period start. So this is when everyone will be able to vote, help govern which projects should get funding. The top 7, the most voted 7 projects on our snapshot proposal will get funding, and then the core team gets to choose, have their own choice of 3. And so, yeah, that begins tomorrow, and that's pretty much it. We actually have a change where usually our next grant round starts on the 1st of every month. It will actually start on the 25th. So actually, after we do the voting period, we'll announce the winners on the 24th. The new grant round starts on the 25th. You guys can put in your proposals in starting for the next round, starting then. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to thank Yashai for coming in. I haven't seen you in a while, so yes, thanks for being here. King, welcome. I believe this was your first time coming into a town hall, so glad you're here, as well as Alex and Patrick. Thanks for coming back, and Kyle as well. So everyone, that's all I got. Does anyone have any further questions before we go? Sweet. Sounds good. See you later, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Peace.